guys, welcome back to my Crypto 101 series, and today we're going to be going over my favorite crypto coin in the entire world, and that's going to be XRP. Okay you guys, XRP to the moon. And the reason why this is my favorite coin is because it's an institutional coin, okay, which means it's a smart money coin. The banks and things are like that are going to be using this coin to be able to move money around internationally. Now you always want to move with the smart money, okay, that's what we do in trading, but also that comes into effect when you're doing investments as well. Whatever smart money is utilizing that they have to use to get things done, you should be investing into it. Again, this is not financial advice. This is just what I did and my logic behind this being my favorite crypto coin in the world. Now, we're not going to do a whole week drawn out talk about XRP, you guys. We're going to get this all fitted into one video, going over the most important concepts about XRP so you can get a good understanding about it before you decide to go ahead and invest into it, okay, you guys? Now, on that note, welcome back to Getting Digital with Deja. Okay, you guys, like usual, let's go over the textbook definition of XRP. XRP is a decentralized asset designed for rapid, low-cost global payments. Unlike Bitcoin, which was designed as a decentralized alternative to traditional money, XRP was specifically made to transform the global financial infrastructure by serving as a high-speed bridge currency for cross-border settlements. Okay, guys, so XRP is going to be the native currency for the XRPL, which is going to be XRP Ledger, okay, which is an open-source blockchain that was created in 2012. Now, just like Ether is native currency to Ethereum, or Sol is native currency to Solana, that is exactly how XRP is to XRPL, okay? And you know, the really cool thing about this XRPL is the tokenization aspect of it. You can tokenize real world assets, okay, or RWAs, which I did talk about a lot in one of my past videos. But RWAs is essentially to where you can create something into a token and have it recognized on the blockchain. So a house, okay? If you want to trade your house or something, you can tokenize that house, tokenize the value and everything of that house, and put it on a token on the blockchain, and that is tokenization, okay? And they're going in the process of tokenizing stocks, so ownership of stocks will be tokenized as well, and things like that. Art, just anything that you can think of can be tokenized on the XRPL, you guys, which is what's so freaking cool. It's so amazing, okay? It's life-changing to the economy, to the world in general, okay? It's taking these real-world assets and bringing them onto blockchain, okay? And that is another reason why XRP is one of my absolute favorites. Now you can create NFTs, tokenization of RWAs, and you can also create dApps on XRPL. Now when it comes to dApps, it is a little bit different than the regular Ethereum. XRPL actually works with the EVM, or Ethereum's platform, to be able to bring those smart contracts onto the XRPL. So traditionally you can deal with dApps on the XRPL, but it won't have to include the complexity of the smart contracts. It won't deal with that. But when you're partnering with the EVM and the XRPL, that is when it's going to be partnering with the Ethereum platform to be able to bring it onto blockchain. So it is kind of like intertwining with each other, which I thought was really cool, but that is not the sole function of the XRPL. So today I'm going to be introducing another type of consensus mechanism, and it's going to be labeled as RPCA, and that is what the XRPL is going to be using. So XRP doesn't use POS, it doesn't use POW, it doesn't use POH, but it uses RPCA, and I'm going to go over the textbook definition of that now. So it's a little bit lengthy, but I wanted to get the whole detail for you guys, okay? XRP uses the Ripple Protocol Consensus Algorithm, or RPCA for short. A network of independent trusted nodes, known as the Unique Node List, or UNL, compares transaction and records every 3 to 5 seconds. When a supermajority of at least 80% of these nodes agree on the validity and order of the transactions, the ledger is updated. This method allows the network to process up to 1,500 transactions per second with settlement times of 3 to 5 seconds and fees typically costing less than 1 cent. Instead of mining, independent validators reach consensus to process transactions, making it highly energy efficient and scalable for cross-border payments. So like I said, this is its own special consensus mechanism made just for the XRPL, just for XRP. Now, as you can see, there's no mining, there's no POW or no staking that is going to be used for this. And actually, all of the XRP that will ever be made has already been made, okay? So when this was first created, there were 100 billion XRP tokens that were made, okay? And there will never be 100 billion in one tokens because no more tokens can ever be made. Now, why they did this is for so many reasons, and we're going to get into it, but they don't have 100 billion tokens in circulation, okay, you guys? It's actually, they have them in escrow. They have a little bit out, and then they have the rest in escrow, and we're going to go over what I mean when I say that. Guys, my hair just kept getting in my face, so I had to tie it up. But let's get back into it. So, at the network's launch, there were 100 billion tokens that were pre-mined, okay? And they came out with the launch of the XRPL, with the launch of the XRP, okay? So in order for this to fully make sense, I'm going to go over how they have pre-mined 100 billion tokens, but they don't have 100 billion tokens currently in circulation, okay? And that's going to be because of the escrow system. Now I'm going to go over that now. Escrow system. To ensure supply predictability, Ripple, which is the company that made XRP and XRPL, okay, locked 55 billion XRP into a series of time-locked escrows in 2017. Up to 1 billion tokens are released monthly to fund operations and provide market liquidity, with any unused portions returned to new escrow. So up to 1 billion tokens are going to be in circulation at a time, and that is going to be each month. Now that's up to 1 billion tokens. So if there's not a billion tokens that get used while it's in circulation, it's going to go back into escrow, into a new escrow, and then it's going to start all over again. They're going to release more coins, okay? So this is how the system is, how they are able to have 100 billion tokens but not have 100 billion tokens in circulation. Only 1 billion tokens in circulation a month, a maximum. Okay, you guys, so with this unused XRP that was once in circulation, when they're putting it back into a new escrow, that means they're putting it back so it can be launched in a later date, okay? So remember, like, these escrow accounts are controlled by protocol and by contracts. So once these time measurements in these protocols are met and these requirements are met that are in these smart contracts, that is when the XRP is going to be released, okay? So when it comes back into escrow, it's just going to be released at a different date, at a later date. And that's what keeps the system going. That's what keeps XRP still circulating and releasing new tokens every month, okay? So it's not going to be 1 month they didn't have to use all the tokens and now it goes back into escrow and then those same coins get put into circulation again the next month. No, it's going to push further the date that it's going to be released into circulation, okay, to the end of the 2020s, to the end of the 2030s and things like that. And that's how it's going to continuously be able to circulate XRP into the system. So there is not a third party or anybody who is controlling the release of this XRP or controlling the accounts of these escrows, okay? It's going to be purely by the XRPL source code, okay? The code inside of the XRPL is what's going to be controlling when these XRPs are being put into circulation. So all the escrow transactions are on blockchain, and everybody who is on XRPL will be able to see these transactions. So there is full transparency on the release of these XRP. Now there are 1 billion XRP that can be out in the open market per month. Okay, you guys, that is a lot of XRP tokens. Now the reason that is because they need on-demand liquidity, or ODL, and this is what Ripple, which is the creator of all this, uses to be able to facilitate faster and cheaper cross-border payments. On-demand liquidity, on-demand XRP, okay, you guys? Instead of just selling it to the open market, they want to have that on demand to be able to facilitate any transactions, any cross-border transactions, whenever and however much, okay, you guys? So they can do it real fast and real cheap because it's ODL and it's on demand. They don't gotta go nowhere, take it out of no accounts or anything, or pull it from anywhere to be able to facilitate these transactions. So the XRPL uses 3 types of escrow, okay, that can be used by both the developers and the users on the XRPL. And we're going to go over those 3 right now. So the first one that you're going to have is time-based escrow. And that essentially means the funds will become available after a specific amount of time. The requirement of that time limit has to be met before the funds will become available. And next you have what they call conditional escrow, and that's when the funds will become available after a cryptographic condition is met, okay you guys? So think of like there's a contract and it says all these things, and it's like you have to check off all these things on the list first before we can release these funds into circulation, okay? Before we can make these funds available, okay? So that is what it's conditional is going to mean. And then last but not least, you have a mixed escrow, which is a mix between the conditional and between the time-based escrow, okay? So that means that a certain amount of time has to pass by or has to be met, and also a certain cryptographic criteria or condition also has to be met, both simultaneously, in order for the funds to be available or to be released. So the most popular one that is used on the XRPL is going to be the time-based escrow, which is when funds become available after a specific amount of time. And what I really love about this escrow type of mechanism is that it makes it so much harder for there to be any pump and dumps, okay? It basically prohibits the company, Ripple, the company that made it, from being able to withdraw on a large scale a lot of XRP and crashing the price. Because only 1 billion can be into circulation per month, and then what's not used goes back into escrow for it to be circulated again at a later date, okay? And so I just think that's really amazing because it really protects you guys as investors, you and I, from pump and dumps and rug pulls, because those are real and they happen every day. But then on top of that, they have the same deflationary tactics that Ethereum and Solana uses when they go ahead and they burn a tiny amount of XRP with every transaction, okay? So that keeps from the network being able to have a whole bunch of spam and congestion, and it also like regulates the price over time, okay? So that deflationary type of mechanism is also going to be used for XRP. So let's go over the primary use cases of XRP. It has a lot of uses, but let's go for the primary ones, okay? And the number 1 primary use case of XRP is going to be to facilitate cross-border payments, specifically for institutions, so like banks, without having to have any intermediaries between it, okay? Now, you have things like XLM, Stellar, which does it for like the regular person, but XRP is more geared towards doing it for institutions. Okay, you guys, so previously I went over ODL, which is on-demand liquidity. So essentially with this on-demand liquidity, it allows XRP to be able to facilitate faster and cheaper cross-border payments between 2 fiat currencies without either country having to have a pre-funded account or a Nostro account in a different or foreign country, okay? So I'm going to go over what I mean by the Nostro account. Okay, you guys, so now we're going to go over the textbook definition of Nostro pre-funded accounts. So, foreign currency accounts held by a domestic bank in a foreign bank, preloaded with funds to facilitate cross-border payments, trade, and currency conversions instantly. By pre-funding, banks ensure liquidity and avoid delays in international settlements, although this model often locks up capital that remains idle. Okay, guys, so let's use like a really random example. So we have India, which is going to be a home bank, which is going to open up another bank account inside of the US in a foreign country, okay? Now, that bank account is going to be open with that foreign country's currency, which is going to be the US dollar. So India is going to be opening an account with the United States, and the money is going to be in US dollars, and that's going to make it easier for them to be able to do cross-border payments, okay, you guys? And that pre-funded account is always going to have money in it, so it can facilitate these cross-border payments between the United States and between India. Now, XRP comes in there and it's like, you guys no longer have to have these pre-funded accounts, because whatever is not used in that pre-funded account is just going to stay idle. That's just money being wasted that can be put into circulation or used, or just like anything, okay, you guys? So XRP comes in and is like, nah. Okay, we're going to have this on-demand liquidity, and we're going to be able to facilitate these transactions faster and cheaper, okay? Yeah! So do y'all see how amazing XRP is, you guys, okay? Because it's literally just taking away all that needs to be done, pre-funding accounts and everything like that, and just literally becoming the middleman in a sense. So deleting the middleman to become the middleman, if that makes sense. And now a lot of banks and institutions are like literally, oh my God, it's storming outside, okay? But a lot of institutions and banks are literally adopting XRP at a fast rate, okay? And XRP is ISO 22 compliant. Okay, so that means that a lot of, and I made a video about that, so go check it out. So that essentially means that XRP can be used in a lot of financial systems all across the world globally. It can be a part of the financial framework of these countries when they want to build it with the ISO 22 protocols. Okay? And fun fact, Nostro is derived from the Latin word of Ars. So it essentially means our money in your bank, okay? So that's why they call it Nostro accounts, because that's literally what it is, our money inside of a foreign accounts bank. So now you guys, let's talk about the amount of transactions that have been on the XRPL, because it is monumental. Now, as of 2025, 60% of the transactions happening on the XRPL were for payments, for cross-border payments. That makes up 60% of all transactions on there were just for cross-border payments. That means that a lot of institutions and banks are utilizing the XRPL. Now that's just for cross-border payments. As of 2025, the total RWA value, real world assets being tokenized on the blockchain, the value was around $395 million, okay? So $395 million in assets like value were on the blockchain in 2025. So that essentially means that a lot of people and developers are using the XRPL to be able to tokenize their assets and add them on the blockchain and create real life assets and create it into a digital form, a digital representation onto the blockchain. So there are around 2 million transactions happening on the XRPL with a mixes of RWA tokenization or NFTs or payments, all of those combined together. It goes for around 2 million transactions a day, okay, you guys? And that equals to around 8 million transactions weekly on the XRPL. All right, you guys, so let's go over the last part about XRP, and that's going to be their 4-year-long lawsuit, okay? SEC was forming a lawsuit over XRP because they were saying that it was an unregistered security, okay? So the security exchange was like, no, y'all cannot operate like this. It's unlawful, okay? You guys are considered a security. In XRP, all the Ripple management was like, no, we're actually not. Now, you guys, I do have a whole video dedicated just to the SEC in this lawsuit that they had with Ripple or with XRP. And if you guys want to learn more about that in deeper detail, go ahead. But I'm just going to give a summary of how it was resolved, okay? And I wrote it down for you guys so it can be like word for word. The case concluded in August 2025. A landmark ruling established that while direct sales to institutional investors were securities violations, programmatic sales on public exchanges were not. Following the settlement, XRP gained regulatory clarity in the US, leading to its relisting on major exchanges in the launch of the US spot XRP ETFs in late 2025, okay? So basically it was saying it's a violation to be selling to these like institutional investors, these banks and things like that. It has to be considered a security for you to do that. But for the retailers, the everyday traders, or everyday regular investors, it's not considered a violation. So that's essentially what they came up with. So basically both sides got what they wanted. The SEC got what they wanted and Ripple got what they wanted. The SEC got what they wanted because like institutional investors, it's a violation. It has to be registered as a security. But Ripple got what they wanted because as an everyday investor or a trader or retailers like us, it's not considered a security, okay? So it doesn't fall under the guidelines of the SEC. So it's like kind of did a 50-50 split. So one side didn't technically win over the other, I would say. I feel like it was an equal battle. But that is exactly what happened, you guys. And that led to XRP being relisted on the exchanges. It got so bad to where these exchanges were taking XRP off, okay? They were no longer offering trading and buying and investing inside XRP because it was dangerous. They were in the middle of a lawsuit against the SEC. The SEC had a lawsuit against them, you guys. That is major. The Securities Exchange, okay? They have a lot of power in the finance industry. So that's why a lot of exchanges kind of backed away from it, but it is relisted on these exchanges and it can be traded worldwide, globally, okay? And it's accepted by a whole bunch of different ledgers and wallets, and it's just amazing, you guys, and it's gaining a lot of traction, okay? It's already gained a lot of traction, but it's gaining even more traction, you guys, okay? So to close this out, remember that XRP's main function is to be used to facilitate cross-border payments, okay, for institutions, okay? And it's also used to be able to tokenize real-world assets and to do DeFi and NFTs and dApps without the use of smart contracts, okay, you guys? So there's a lot of things that XRP can do. It has a lot of utility behind it, but the fact that it's so closely connected to smart money, and in the trading world, you trade with the smart money, I think that is amazing. That is why it's my favorite coin. It's XRP to the moon, and it's under $2 right now. It's usually around the $2 range. It can reach up to $3, you know, but lately crypto's been crashing, okay? So buy low, sell high, but I'm not selling anytime soon. I assume you shouldn't be doing the same, okay? But, okay, always remember, coins have to start off low to be able to get high. Bitcoin at one point was $1, and now it's like 60,000. It was 120 something thousand, but it did drop because crypto is crashing right now, okay? But don't be alarmed, you guys. This is an opportunity. Again, this is not financial advice. All right, you guys, that is it for today's lesson. We talked all things about XRP. If you have any more questions, I will be happy to answer them in the comments, okay? So now we're sticking to just doing one video per crypto coin, okay? No more week-long videos. So my next video is going to be on XLM or Stellar, okay? And it's a direct competitor to XRP because it does the same exact thing, essentially, as far as cross-border payments, but it's for people. Okay, like regular people like you and I, instead of geared towards institutions, okay? And it's geared towards people without bank accounts, essentially. So I'm gonna go inside deeper context of what I mean when I say that, but we will be covering that on Monday. We will be going over XLM. Okay, with all that said, I will see you guys on Monday, and don't forget that pretty girls can do crypto too. Toodles.